Good evening. Welcome to the March 12th meeting of the Middle School Committee. My name is Mark Conroy. I always start with attendance. So to my left, Denise.
Here.
Robin.
Here.
Superintendent. Yep. Shayna.
Here.
And Sean. Here. All right. Next, I will announce that this meeting is being recorded and can be viewed on Mondays at 7 o'clock on Comcast Channel 8 or Verizon Channel 37. All meeting videos are also posted to the Millis Public Schools website under School Committee. All videos are also available on YouTube. All school committee minutes and agendas can be found on the School Committee page of the Millis Public School website. Persons wishing to speak during open session must sign in before the meeting starts. Comments are not to exceed 3 minutes in time. Individuals may not name students, staff, parents. All topics for discussion must be limited to those listed on this evening's agenda, and all comments must be directed to the chair. The committee may or may not respond to public comments. It should be their decision to discuss issues at a later date. And all times are approximate. So it is 7:41, so we will announce the start of our public hearing for the FY25 budget. So should we do the presentation? Do we want to do? Yeah. You want to do teacher rep first?
Yeah, I'm happy to go. I'm happy to sit in this.
Why don't you go ahead and then you will have the choice of the rest of your evening.
I'm going back down the hallway.
Well, that's what I figured, which is, still you would then have the option to go down there whenever you want to.
Hello, I missed you all.
Missed you.
Got out 12 minutes faster each evening. All right, I'll be quick because I know you're super excited for the preliminary budget hearing. So, kindergarten preschool enjoyed a visit from Southwick's Zoo on Monday, March 4th. They had snakes, birds, ferrets, and alligators, and they even got to touch a few of the animals, which is always fun. CFB also held Read Across America 2 weeks ago. Members from the community came in and read books focused on kindness to all of the CFB classrooms. So they wanted to give a shout out to Laura Doherty for organizing the event. The Clyde Brown is also kicking off their Fun Run event on Monday at their all-school assembly. So the Fun Run will actually take place this Friday, the 15th, and students will get a t-shirt if they do the Fun Run. Spring conference early releases are coming on the 21st and the 22nd of March. See, look what you did, Mr.
See?
I can't go to May yet. I'm not
Sun
ready.
came out, and so I'm all thinking it's
There's so many things that have to happen. I'm not ready for May.
spring.
We've had 4 Millis teams participate in the elementary level Massachusetts Destination Imagination. So that's been exciting. At the middle school, grade 6 ELA held their annual Civil Human Rights Museum, a one-day in-class event where students share projects of various types. Projects included equality for women in sports, World War II medic Desmond Doss, cookie maker Jasmine Cho, internet sensation James Charles, and artist Jacob Lawrence, and boxer Muhammad Ali. Eighth graders are preparing for a May visit to the STEM fair at Fenway Park. I know that's become kind of a fun annual pilgrimage. And also the State House, in conjunction with their learning about state and local government. In civics, they're exploring the 3 branches of government, and in science, they're working in astronomy. 6th and 7th graders had their first dance last Friday, and it was so cute for anybody who dropped them off. I watched them all come in. They were so excited. The teachers were so excited. It was just fun to watch. The 6th grade field trip to the Edward M. Kennedy Institute for the United States Senate is coming up. The students get a dynamic interactive experience in democracy. So they visited a full-scale representation of the United States Senate chamber, which is kind of cool. We're able to sit in the Senate seats and saw a replica of Senator Kennedy's Washington office. They got to participate in the process of voting and passing a bill for climate control. So I think that's really cool to get them excited about government. The middle and high school choruses sang at the P. Bruins game back on March 1st. So the middle school did God Bless America, and the high school, I was even there, and my daughter will kill me because I can't remember what the high school sang. They didn't have the national anthem, it's the one in between.
Oh, beautiful.
Oh,
that
beautiful.
One?
America the Beautiful.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. They were beautiful. It sounded lovely. It was very exciting. Oh my gosh.
We
You
won't
were
tell
so
them.
you were so
We
mem-
won't tell
mem-
them.
Watching this
you
video.
were so mesmerized you forgot what they were saying.
Honestly, I was marked to not to be kidding. Like I was totally focused on like listening to them. I was just kind of listening to their voices wash over my head. They were all so cute though. The middle schoolers were just over the top excited to be there, and Mr. Femino did an amazing job with them. And he actually told me, I don't know, I didn't know this. I don't know if you did, Bob. Our kids were one of the first groups to ever do the P. Bruin singing. So he and the gentleman who organizes it, Nick, like he's been doing this since they've been doing it. Mark was one of the first guys to bring kids down. It was really cool. They had like color guards there, and it was amazing. So that was a fun night. As you know, there's a basketball game going on tonight.
Over.
There's some energy about it at school today, so that's been kind of the talk of it. But now we can all kind of rest. Judge Jason Chan came to Mr. Cravy's law class on March 6th to teach the students about process of law from arrest to sentencing. The judge grew up in Hopedale and explained that he was very impressed with our students' knowledge-based and interest level. And so they also were having their second mock trial at about the same time, so it was kind of this perfect coalescence of things. Plus, they visited the prison in February, so it was a full circle. Junior Vera Medvieva placed third overall at the Mass Regional 5 Science and Engineering Fair at Bridgewater State University. And so that was very exciting. She will be competing at the state level on April 5th. So hopefully we'll hear more about that. She's been great. She went last year as well and placed. So she does this really independently. She'll have teachers kind of support her, but she really has kind of taken this on. On March 2nd, the Drama Club competed in the statewide one-act competition. They won 2 awards for excellence in acting, so Annie Rolag and Rio Spies. And then they had one for set design, which was Troy Blanchett and Annie Rolag. They performed a piece called Tracks. And Troy Blanchett, who's a senior, directed the play with Victoria being his advisor. It was a 15-hour day, by the way, when they went. They'd like to thank Merit for their grant to make their production possible. And I'll add a funny aside. The author of this one-act play actually was my very close colleague when I started in Attleboro years ago. So he was the physics drama teacher, and I was the chemistry dance teacher. So,
Small world.
funny full circle there. The Actives Mind chapter was selected as the national chapter of the month for March based on the work the chapter has done this year. So they had their September Walk for America Foundation for Suicide Prevention, their Men's Mental Health November. They attended the Send Silence Packing exhibit and have done a bunch of other activities, so they were very excited about that. As you probably are aware, on March 1st we did a comedy fundraiser for Aiden Weatherby, and at this point they had raised over $45,000. So it's amazing what the community can do when they come in. The QR codes are still active, so they're around if anybody ever wants to donate. Starting this weekend, the community production of The Wizard of Oz is going up. We have seniors Anna Moricott, Wilson, Copese, Kristen Cowley, and Lucian Hastings doing their final production with the group. We also have Kevin Brzezinka, we have Areha Johnson, we have Ruby Louise as one of the Dorothys. So we've got quite a few of our students, and we've got about 25 ensemble members as our little munchkins and Osians. So that'll be fun. And that's what I have for you tonight. Any questions before you attend to your budget hearing?
No, I think we're good.
Thank you.
Thank you very
All
much.
Stephanie.
Enjoy.
All right. Why don't we go to the budget presentation because we can do the action items after.
So thank you, everyone. This is the proposed FY25 budget for the Millis Public Schools. This has been a process that actually started back in November with Mr. Wiggin working on salary projections, expense projections that continued through December and January as the administrative team looked at projected costs and critical needs for FY25. That work continued into February. We really started to whittle the budget down to the numbers that we really expect to reflect the needs in the school year 24-25, which brings us to tonight, public hearing. We will be presenting at FinCom on April 3rd, I believe. And we will continue to look at state and local funding sources, our own projections, and make adjustments as needed to bring a balanced budget to town meeting. And the school committee will approve the final FY25 budget in June. The guiding principles behind the budget to support the highest quality education program services as possible. Fund proposed curriculum development initiatives, instructional resources, enhanced programs, and support services to meet our students' needs. Provide staffing levels that support reasonable class sizes at all levels. Maintain the current level of services provided. Support salary adjustments per our contractual obligations. Fund the myriad of state and federal mandates that we face. And maintain capital items and school buildings to support the safety of our students and the programming of our schools. Some background as we head into the 24-25 school year. Enrollment currently as of March 1st, I believe, Clyde Brown has had 602 students pre-K to 5. Millis Middle is at 270 students. Millis High School is at 317. The pre-K to 12 enrollment is 1,189, and we have 6 Millis students in the TIES program. The graph reflects 1186. That graph is from, those numbers are from November of this year. And you may notice a slight drop in pre-K to 12 enrollment between 22-23 and 23-24, and that is a function of having one fewer pre-K classes. We eliminated a pre-K class last year when we cut our budget. We eliminated a teacher and a para, so instead of 3 preschool classes, we have 2, and so that's about 25 students. So we the trough year for enrollment, which had been declining for a number of years, the trough year was 2021, and the projections are that we will increase modestly over the next few years, which is what this slide demonstrates. The projections from the New England School Development Council is for moderate growth over the next 10 years at 4.6%. And these numbers could certainly be affected by some of the building that's going on in town. It could also be affected by the MSBA middle high school project as we saw increases in expected enrollment over at Clyde Brown after that project passed. Enrollment by grade, and you can see that it's kind of wide-ranging. I'd call your attention to the younger grades at Clyde Brown, K1 and 2. Those class sizes are pretty large for early elementary, and so that's something that is a concern. Pre-K, again, 53 students. Last year we had 77, but again, we have 1 fewer class sections. And pre-K is really not an indicator of next year's kindergarten class because pre-K is not required. So, we don't know about the kindergarten population until registration that begins in a few weeks. At the grades 6 through 8, you see our largest group of students is grade 6. They passed over from Clyde Brown last year to the middle school. And you see our smallest class is our current grade 10 at 64 students. If we break it down by class size, again, the lower elementary class sizes are big. I would also note that the grade 4 class size is large, and part of the reason for that is we eliminated a teacher at Clyde Brown when we made the cuts last year. So there's one fewer section available. And so in grade 4, that teacher would have most likely been teaching in grade 4, which would have reduced that class size to about 20, but we're at 24.75. Grades 6, 7, and 8, those class sizes are determined by looking at core classes, English, math, etc., and getting the average for that. The high school represents the range of class sizes. Smallest high school class, core class has 8 students, and our largest has 30. We generally don't run core classes under 10 students. In this case, this was a case where we had, I think, somewhere in the neighborhood of 36 students signed up for a class. And so just because of the way the schedules work, and I know this because I did it as principal, we wound up with, 28 kids in one class and 8 in the other. We couldn't make it work to balance that. And that's one of the struggles of a small school. School choice population for Millis this year, we have 68 non-residents attending Millis public schools. We have 22 Millis residents choicing out to other districts, so we have a net gain of 46 students in choice. We're expecting about $333,000 in choice revenue from the state, give or take. The formula is not exactly $5,000 per student, and for some students, if they have special ed costs, that gets rolled into what we're reimbursed for that. We also have some students that they begin the year a Millis student, they move to another town, they want to stay in Millis, they become a choice student, so we get like a prorated payment. And the same thing if we have a student who's a choice student from another town move into Millis, then we don't get that choice money. So, and you can see from that the number of choice students that we've been able to accept here in Millis has declined from a high of 91 in 17-18 to 65 last year. So that choice revolving fund has taken a hit on that, and a lot of it is a function because we're graduating more choice students than we can take in. Some of the demographics of our current students, and I've also, for comparison, put up the demographics from 10 years ago, and as with most schools in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Millis is becoming a more diverse student population, and our largest growing population is categorized by the DESE as Hispanic, but it's really not. Most of our students who fall under that category of Hispanic are actually Brazilian, and so, but they get categorized as Hispanic even though they speak Portuguese and have that culture. But that is our fastest growing and population, and so the comparison of 10 years ago, our classrooms look different. And then with selected population, again, comparing to 10 years ago, we see a significant increase in first language, not English. In other words, the language spoken at home for 9.1% of the kids in the district is not necessarily English. And this has impacted our budget, in particularly in contracted services, when we look at having to have translate documents, have translators at meetings. These things are required by the Commonwealth. And so, you know, as that population has grown exponentially, our expenses have grown exponentially in that area. You know, and if you look at the English language learner, 10 years ago we had 0.4% of our students were English language learners. Now we're at 3.2% of our students are English language learners, and that number is growing, again, exponentially. So there are services and programs that we necessarily have to provide for those students.
So, Bob, two quick things. One, just an order of magnitude of kids. Just looking at first language, not English, and English language learners was roughly 1%, which would have been about 12 kids throughout the whole district. We're now at 10, so it's about 186. So that's, you know, a significant. And then the other piece, as you're talking about, you know, the cost to the district and needing all these services, it's also not, they're not all at Clyde Brown in kindergarten and first grade.
Right.
You know, when you have families move into town or just over time, you need all these services at all the buildings because you've got kids in all the different grades. It's not, so it just exponentially impacts the district because you can't not do it, but it's not targeted in one spot.
And over the years, and Maureen Holton has presented on policies and procedures and programs for English language learners, and you know we have provided extensive services and have seen good results. Some of our out-of-district enrollment in Tri-County and Norfolk Aggie. This year, we had a decrease in Millis students attending Tri-County from 37 down to 32. Norfolk Aggie has remained pretty steady throughout. We're only graduating 3 Millis residents from Norfolk, Tri-County this year, so that the number could go up next year for that. And the tuition cost of a student at Norfolk Aggie is in the area of $19,000 a student. The tuition for a student at the Aggie is around $5,000. Mr. Wigan, is that accurate?
Closer to $8,000.
$8,000.
Capital.
Oh, because the capital.
Because of the capital.
Okay. And then in terms of private home and charter enrollment, we've seen an increase in students who are attending private schools. Our charter enrollment has declined slightly, and since a high of 21-22, we've seen a significant decrease in the homeschooling population, and then the charter population is fairly low. Per pupil expenditure, and these graphs represent fiscal year 2022, and that's the most recent year the Department of Elementary and Secondary Ed has data for our Millis and our neighbors. We see Millis is slightly above the state average by $4 a student, and slightly above the neighboring district average for per pupil expenditure. And then when you count out-of-district students, again, Millis slightly above the state average. Per pupil expenditure, including out-of-district students, back in 2022 was $20,251 per student. The DOT schools, that's our district area review tool that kind of links us with other districts that have similar grade span, total enrollment, special population. You can see where we fit among DOT comparison schools. One thing to note about those, a number of those schools is their location. Their location are in areas of the Commonwealth that the cost of living is lower, the cost of teacher salaries is lower, and so forth.
Except Medway.
Right, right. And then you see a similar trend in the DOT comparisons for when you include out-of-district schools as well. And then we get to the budget to address the population of students we have and the programs we run. So operational budget summary would include salaries amounting to $17,229,731. Out-of-district tuition costs, and I'll talk more about these in later slides, $1,855,806. Other expenses, $2,080,253, for a total level service budget of $21,165,657. And to break it down, if we look at salaries, the salary amount is $17,229,731. Comparison to last year, we had $16.4 million in salaries. We had some mandated positions that we had to fold into our budget this year because of IEPs and things like that. So we had a para position that had to increase in hours because a student went from a part-time pre-K program to a full-time kindergarten program. We had some move-in students that required a registered behavior technician. We have some students who had summer services included on their IEPs. So those mandated positions added $148,352 to our operating budget. Because the host community agreement, the marijuana impact funds, because those numbers were reduced, we had to move $77,430 in salary out of the HCA agreement and into our operational budget. And we did that because these positions were crucial positions. They included a middle school SEL, social emotional learning teacher, and a middle school social emotional learning para, and a high school social emotional learning para. We got about $80,000 in host community agreement funds for salaries this year, and that $80,000 will go towards a middle school adjustment counselor. So we had to back that out of the HCA and put it into our operating budget. Contractual increases, $545,314 amounted to a 3.3% increase to our salaries from FY24. Lanes, teachers moving from a master's to a master's plus 15, master's 60, etc. $39,118 in increased salary expenses there. So the total salary increase was $810,214, and that's a 4.93% increase over FY24. Expenditures.
Bob, can we just go back on
Yep.
salaries? So
Yeah.
I think it's important to note it's 4.93, but 1.4% of that is new mandated positions and loss of HCA funding. So
Correct.
our contracts, what we control, is only going up 3.5%. which is under 4. And even if you include, we're making the choice because of their importance of keeping those HCA positions, that still would only have our salary increase be right at 4%, which would fall in line with the 4% increase that we would get generally. So really being over what our 4% are the new mandated positions is what tops us over the 4%.
Our expenditures for FY25, we're projecting expenses of $3,936,059. That's $120,853 over our FY24 expenditures, or a 3.16% increase. The drivers of those expenditures, again, out-of-district tuitions, 1.85 million in those out-of-district tuitions, and it should be noted that the actual number of tuitions, the actual amount of tuitions we're projecting for FY25 is $2,555,806, but we are able to use $700,000 from circuit breaker to reduce that number to that hit to the operating budget at 1.85 million. And I'll talk a little bit more about circuit breaker in a minute. And then we have contracted and consulting services at $432,247. And again, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of this, part of this budget deals with translation services, tutoring services, home hospital tutoring services if a kid is unable to attend school, and some of those services are not special education services, but they come out of the consulting services and the contracted services line there. And this also includes special ed contracted services, if we need additional OT, PT, speech and language, we contract out for that. The utilities and energy is a big driver of our expenditures. The school bus leases at $163,000 and capital technology at $162,000. These expenses amount to almost 76% of all the expenses in the district. The budget variables, things that could fluctuate between now and April when we go to the FinCom. Certainly into June with the state budget. The state budget is a variable. We don't know for sure what we'll be getting. Choice receipts, there's usually some fluctuation, but the estimated number of $330,000 will probably be fairly accurate, fairly close. The grant availability and allocation, we don't know those figures for sure yet, and fuel costs and utilities, etc. Mr. Wiggin is always hoping for a warm winter. So on grants, these are the grants that we normally receive and would expect to receive next year. The amounts do fluctuate, and they're difficult to predict whether they fluctuate up or down. So the largest grant we receive from the federal government is the IDEA grant for federal special education grant. So this year we received $377,389 in that grant. That was up about $20,000 from the prior year, but you can't predict that it's going to be up $20,000 for next year. It could well be down $20,000 from next year. We just don't know. The Early Childhood Special Education Grant, which is also part of the IDEA, grant. We saw a slight decrease in that in FY '24, 17,000. Title I, Clyde Brown is a Title I school, so we received some grant money for that. Title I at $37,358. That helps pay for tutors that work with students, as well as some teaching staff and paraprofessional salaries come out of that. $15,790 in Title II Part A supporting effective instruction. And it's pretty standard, the Title IV grant, we generally do get $10,000 a year, which helps with funding some paraprofessional salaries and some tutor salaries. So this year, from those regular grants, we received $458,346 that helped offset costs that go into the operating budget. Some additional grants we received this year, the Student Opportunity Act Evidence-Based Practices Grant. You may remember Maureen Knowlton presenting this grant last spring. And from this grant, we were able to pay for a special educator and 0.6 of an EL teacher. The effective-based practice that we focused on was inclusionary practices through co-teaching, but also through professional development and teaming. And so that's how we've utilized that grant this year. Next year, we anticipate $150,000 from that grant, and it will expire after next year. The High Quality Instructional Materials Grant, $58,700, helped us implement our literacy curriculum over at Clyde Brown. Very helpful in getting us the instructional materials to support that. That grant is expiring this year, so we will not have that grant next year. Hopefully some new grant comes along, but we can't guarantee that. Summer Acceleration Academy grant helped us have a summer academy over at Clyde Brown before the school year started. And we also have a Math Acceleration Academy grant in the same amount, $33,200. And that's, hopefully we'll be able to run an Acceleration Academy during April vacation for math. Whether or not we're able to use that grant is going to depend on enrollment, if parents are interested in sending their students. We were able to run 2 Acceleration Academies last year. This year in February vacation, we did not have the interest. So I'm hopeful that maybe in April, more people will be interested in that. And then we have an Investigating History grant, a $4,000 grant. And this $4,000 is paying for professional training for social studies teachers in grades 5 through 7.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So on this slide, you've noted that some of these grants are expiring, so we won't be getting the numbers. But on the previous slide, you didn't note that. So is this are the like IDEA and Title I and II ones that we apply for each year and get something, or is it like an automatic thing? Are we like actively going searching for grants?
Yeah, those are entitlement grants, so we
Okay.
get those automatically.
Okay.
And then these are the ones that we apply for.
Okay.
You know, and the thing with most grants is that they are to supplement the operational budget, not supplant it, not to take something out of your operating budget, but to add. You know, when we have something that, you know, like the High Quality Instructional Materials grant fit right in when we were implementing that curriculum, they're a great benefit. So we're kind of at the mercy of what grants come out and when, and do we qualify, and oftentimes when they're competitive, quote unquote competitive grants, oftentimes our demographics are something that might keep us prevent us from getting those grants.
Thank you.
Circuit breaker for next year. Circuit breaker for this year was around $500,000. For next year, we're looking at us having reimbursements of $763,064, which will help offset some operational costs next year when it comes to tuitions. And there are a lot of questions about circuit breaker and how it works. So I took this information right from the DESE website. They have an FAQ, how a reimbursement is calculated through the circuit breaker program, and it says reimbursement is calculated on a per student basis when the total cost of services exceeds the annual circuit breaker eligibility threshold. Subject to annual legislative appropriation, the state pays 75% of the costs above the threshold through reimbursement to districts. It's a mouthful. So they give you an example. As an example, in FY23, the per student threshold was $49,494. If special education services provided to a student cost a district $75,000, reimbursement for that student would be the cost of $75,000 minus the threshold of $49,494 times 0.75 or $19,129.50. So I kind of broke that out and just into the math. So in this example, if Millis had a student in FY23 that had a tuition, an out-of-district special education tuition of $75,000. In FY23, we pay that $75,000 to the school that the student attends. At the end of the year, the state calculates the amount that's above $49,000, $49,494. So they back out that $49,000 to get our reimbursable amount. So in this case, our reimbursable amount would be $25,506, would be eligible for circuit breaker, so we'd get 75% of that. So we'd get $19,129.50 the following year, in FY24, so this year. So in the end, we'd wind up, the district is responsible for $55,870.50 of that $75,000 tuition. So it's nice to have circuit breaker money, but it's not dollar for dollar. And there is legislation. There has been legislation filed with the state to lower the threshold amount. There's also legislation that has been filed to raise the reimbursement amount above 75%. That legislation has been filed continually for a number of years, and it has not moved. So I'm not anticipating anything else. We do certainly hope that, given the state's revenue projections for this year, we certainly hope the state can fund the 75% reimbursement rate. So for FY25, the budget allocations, the graph at the top, the pie chart at the top demonstrates the allocations for FY25, including salaries, and the FY25 proposed budget has 82.3% tied up in salaries. Special education costs, 9.7%, and the other large categories are our technology, energy, and maintenance budgets. If we take out salaries and just look at expenditures, we see special education at 54.5% of expenditures, energy and utilities at 10.5%, and technology at 9.6%. If we take out tuitions, I don't have a pie chart for this, but if we were to take out the special education tuitions and have that be a separate category, special education expenses would be 4.2% of the budget. So the bulk of what we see here are the special education tuitions.
So Bob, so in the in the top graph, the
Yes.
special education of 9.7.
Mm-hmm.
So half, like 4.2 of that 9.7 is tuitions, or vice versa, the other way around.
So, right, I don't know if it's 4.2.
Well, 4.2 is what's left, so it's actually 5.5 would be tuitions.
Right.
So is this 4.2 then, is that also salaries?
No.
Okay. So the 82.3 is truly all salaries?
Correct.
Okay.
And just kind of a comparison to, another comparison to the FY24 budget. Last year, we had a base budget of $19,296,026. We had salaries of $16,419,517. We had out-of-district tuitions of $1.8 million, and we had other expenses of $2,013,345 for a total budget. And this is not a level service budget, by the way, on the FY24 side. The total of our budget last year request was $20,234,723. That was $938,697 above, the 4% town budget. So we had a shortfall of $938,697, I'm sure you all remember. And that shortfall was covered by town meeting in a vote of $538,697 in free cash and using $400,000 in stability funds to offset that shortfall. And it was made clear at that time that this was a one-time vote for the town. It would not add to our base budget for FY25, but it certainly, helped us bridge the gap. Even with that $938,000, we still had to cut over $700,000 from our budget last year. So this year, our base budget is based not on the $20.2 million budget that we operated under this year. It was based on the $19.296 million budget, and at a 4.14% increase, that base budget is $20,095,023. Our salaries in the amount of $17,229,731. Out-of-district tuitions of $1,855,806. The additional expense of $2,080,253 bring us to a level services budget of $21,165,657, which is $1,070,767 more than the 4.14% budget.
Which is a shortfall increase of about 130,000, which goes directly back to the mandated hires that we've had this year.
Correct. So with a 4.14% budget, we'd be looking at $1,070,767 in cuts. Last year, as I mentioned, we cut $729,357 off our budget, which included staff layoffs, expense cuts that impacted all of our schools, and program cuts. To to have $1 million in cuts this year on top of that would certainly be very dramatic for our school and devastating for our schools. Implications, that shortfall would mean a reduction of staff by 16 to 20 full-time equivalent positions. And again, that full-time equivalent is the amount that makes up a full-time position. So, in other words, if we had 2 staff members working full-time, that's a 2.0 full-time equivalent. If we cut each by half and made them part-time employees working 50% of the time, they would each be a 0.5 and a 0.5 position. Cutting both of those in half would be like a full-time equivalent position. I don't think I described that well.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
So, so 16 to 20 FTEs across all our schools and programs. At Clyde Brown, that would mean the elimination, reduction of specials, elimination and reduction of curriculum supports in literacy and math. At the middle school, we'd see increased class sizes in core academic classes. We'd see the elimination or reduction of unified arts classes and the elimination or reduction of literacy and math support. At the high school, this would mean increased class sizes in core academic classrooms, reduction or elimination of a number of elective courses, and a number of those elective courses would be advanced placement classes. So again, on the heels of the $700,000 cut last year, $1 million cuts would be devastating for our schools. I can't stress that enough.
And I think it's safe to say, especially the cuts at the high school would also then have a direct impact on the number of students who end up choicing out or going to Tri-County because they would have options at other schools that they won't have here anymore. Mm-hmm. And we've got a big surplus of students who are choicing in versus choicing out, but it won't take long for that to go, and it won't take long for the number of kids going to Tri-County and our Tri-County bill exponentially growing, because Tri-County offers all college prep work and classes in addition to the VOTEC stuff. So, this is what would happen here, but then step 2 of it will be further financial implications in higher costs and less revenue coming to Millis, which then just creates a circular cycle, because then we're reducing more.
And then at the lower levels, foundational skills would suffer on the elementary level.
Which then, if we can't support kids who need a little bit of help, all of a sudden that little bit of help that they didn't get in preschool and kindergarten becomes a lot more required help come 2nd and 3rd grade. And now kids who maybe avoid an IEP are now on an IEP because we didn't have the support staff in preschool, kindergarten, 1st grade.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
I'm not sure if this is another way. 20 FTEs is over 8% of the entire staffing of the
Yep.
Millis Public Schools.
Yeah, so if people didn't hear that, it would be the equivalent of more than an 8% reduction in staff.
So, with all this information, just before I conclude, I would like to say that, you know, we believe that Millis Schools has provided a significant return on investment of the taxpayers of Millis. Millis has been recognized internationally, nationally, locally as a high-performing school district. And some of the accolades outlined here, niche best schools in the top 7% recognized by U.S. News and World Reports. We've had students who have become AP scholars, students who have been finalists, semifinalists, and honorable mention in the National Merit Program, recognized locally by Boston Magazine, by U.S. News and World Reports. An interesting statistic, metric they use, College Curriculum Breadth Index rank. In that rank, and that measures the proportion of kids in a senior class who have taken and passed multiple AP courses. Millis was 626th, ranked 626th nationally. It's over 25,000 schools. We're the top 3% in the country for kids not only having the opportunity to take high-level classes, but performing well in them. You know? And you know, that's an example of you know, some of the things that you know we'd be losing out on. Again, our schools, our students consistently perform above grade level standard state averages on MCAS. Last year, every level in every MCAS test, with the exception of third grade math, and we've got plenty of time to work with those guys. Every other group exceeded the state averages for meeting and exceeding grade level standards in MCAS. And this is a metric I like to show. Millis High School is one of 3 high schools that has made the Boston Magazine's list of best bang for your buck, best bang for your housing dollar list in their annual ranking of Boston area high schools. Littleton, Algonquin, and Millis High School have made that list every year, and basically it's how your high school performs in relation to the median household, the median home price in your town. And so, you know, it's another indication of Millis students outperforming their demographic.
That's why we can't get those grants.
Victim of our success, I guess. But again, it's a testament to the teaching and learning that goes on in all our schools, and you know, it's the high school that gets this ranking, but obviously it leads up to that. They're able to perform that way because of what happened in middle school, because of what happened, the foundation in Clyde Brown. So again, Millis Schools a sound investment for the taxpayers of Millis. Next steps, we'll continue to look at the budget as the variables become clearer. We have the FinCom presentation of the budget on April 3rd. Town meeting is May 6th, and the final approval of the budget is in June of 2024.
All right. Thank you very much. Anybody have questions? No?
I'm just going to say, I've been on the committee for 11 years, or some number of years. And your explanation of the,
Circuit breaker?
Circuit breaker. Circuit breaker. I finally now understand why we get the money the next year. I could never wrap my head around it. So,
They try and make it very
yes, they do, but you explained it beautifully, so thank you.
All right.
May 6th.
I mean, May 7th, actually.
May 7th.
Okay.
Thank you.
Monday.
Yeah, I think it's always on a Monday.
It's,
Sounds like
the
one
7th
is
is a Tuesday.
There's a conflict this,
What time is it at 7? I'm putting it like 7.
7:30.
7:30.
You
Yeah.
can be there at 7. Save me a seat.
Thank you.
All right. No questions? All right. I think we're good. Any questions from the audience?
feel compelled to say something.
You don't have to. I mean, you showed up.
I know, thank you.
Do I guess I'm a resident?
You're whatever you would like to be.
My avatar? My name is John Laura, 247 Pleasant Street. I'm a resident of Millis, and as well as the chair of the Finance Committee. But I'm speaking as a resident right now, and it's a tough situation. It's you guys put a lot of hard work into it, so it's tough. It's tough. Those are people out there, and the numbers behind the numbers are people, and I think the town, the school, FinCom, Select Board are all making the best decisions for the town. So I appreciate it.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
If there's anything, we can send you this. If there's any details or anything that you think would be helpful before coming on the 3rd, other than having the granular detail of the reductions, which we'll have by then.
Understood. Will this be available online immediately? Pretty
Yeah.
much. So I think that's important. The variables between now and the 3rd, let alone town meeting, I don't know what those variables are, but I imagine they're minimal in change.
The biggest thing is going to be state aid.
And when we don't find that out for a couple
I
months.
mean, we got to hedge now because all we have is the governor's number, and so
Yeah.
unless
And I would say that it's not going to be, we're not going to get a windfall.
no, the only thing that could be the most impact that could happen is if the state revenues continue to decline and they start making cuts mid-year. That could have a negative impact. There's no positive coming out of the
Right.
state house
Right.
between now and town meeting.
Yeah. No, I think it's laid out. I think there's going to be a ripple effect of any kind. If not to talk openly, but if look, I hope the override goes through, and there's more to it than that. It's more of a town override than just a school override. To be mindful of that, and if funding occurs, then that's a good thing, and we march forward. But the ripple effect could be devastating. And to your point, Mark, it's a step down the wrong path. And I don't think anybody on school, on town, or a resident wants to go down that path. I know I don't.
Yeah.
So, I hope the town sees that, and I think it's all of our jobs to get out there and talk to people and make sure that they're aware of the numbers, what they mean, and the impact to each family member, each household. So, thank you.
All right. Thank you.
you.
Thanks
Thank
for coming. See you in a few weeks.
Stop before.
Exactly. All right. You want to do the enrollment real quick first, and then we'll do the MSBA update?
We still have to do action items too, right?
Hmm?
We still have to do action
Yeah.
items too, right? Okay.
But we'll do the
So
MSBA
the
update
enrollment,
first.
and I think the numbers might have even changed a little bit since this. Enrollment as of March 1st, Clyde Brown 602, the middle school 270, high school 317, ties 6, total in district 1,194 students, out of district 18, so total for the entire town in and out of district 1,212 students.
All right. Next, we'll do the MSBA update.
I'll do a little intro while you're doing that, Bob.
Okay, so is this these slides
Yep.
first?
Yep, that's the one. You can go right to the agenda if you want. Okay, apologies. Actually, I should have put it in the folder so you guys could grab it on your screens. Robin, if I send it.
It's all good.
Okay. So, 2 weeks from tonight, so at our next meeting, we have members of the project team coming to school committee as part of the MSBA process. There's a step where school committee needs to endorse and approve the educational plan. So the educational plan is a document that administration and school principals and staff have worked quite a long time on, which basically talks about how we envision education in Millis and what we want a school facility to be able to support for education. And that document is kind of the foundation upon which the designers take a look and figure out how they would put a building together to make sure that we're meeting the needs of the educational plan. So it's really the cornerstone to the whole thing. So in advance of them coming in a couple of weeks, thought it would be a good idea to give everybody an update kind of on where we are right now in the process. And I'm not sure of how much they're going to go into some of the things I'm going to talk about tonight when they come in a couple of weeks. But at a minimum, what we'll take you through is where we are right now in the whole process, what the next 12 months looks like. We got last week for the first time a peek at the preliminary designs that they've put together. I'll talk you through the requirements of the MSBA and the types of designs we have to submit as part of being in the program. And I say it like that because you have to submit just a straight up code upgrade. You have to submit a design for a new build. So those are requirements. Those are not choices. So I'll say that a few times over the course of the next few slides. But, and then obviously you have to submit at least one addition renovation option. Our focus, as we've said from the very beginning, is taking a really hard look at addition renovation options. That is our preference. That's where we're spending the most amount of time and energy, and then we've asked the design team to do the same, but they are doing what is required of the process. So, so a lot of this is taken right from the slides from the community forum a couple of weeks ago. So if you're able to attend that, I'm not going to go as deep as they did. They went pretty deep and did a wonderful job, but happy to give any other information along the way. If you see something, have a question, please just, we'll keep it interactive, and anybody in the room, if you have questions, please shout. Can you go to the next slide, Bob? Thanks. Super tiny graph, but I'll talk to you on the next slide about the 3 big milestones over the course of the next 12 months. So we're basically like, no pun off the conversation that we just had, we're in the red, right? So if you look to the far left, we're in the red, and we're in the preliminary design program section of the feasibility study. So what are we doing in that? I'll give you more details on the next slide. You can stay right here, Bob, for a second. But what's happening is so we've selected the project management firm, we've selected the design firm. The design firm has a bunch of subcontractors that are doing things like traffic studies, site surveys, facility reviews. So that's anything from the building itself, the envelope, the roof, the mechanical system, security, technology. So Bob's had a really busy house in here for the course of the last month at least, where they're just taking a look to get, again, sort of like the foundation of what's our starting point. So that's the work that's going in right now. At the end of this milestone, and why they're coming in a couple of weeks, is we provide, the project team provides a submission of a really big document called the Preliminary Design Program Submission to the MSBA. It has a facilities assessment. They go through, they measure all the rooms. So the rooms above or below the MSBA requirements. They take a look at, again, the building itself, and they call out certain things. The design options also are in that. The educational plan is the biggest part of that. So all of that, and through this whole entire process, there are milestones of submissions. So the end of the red arrow is a submission to the MSBA in the April timeframe of the preliminary design program packet. So step one of official submissions to the MSBA. After that, you move into a closer review of the design options that you really want the designers to take a look at. So right now, I think they have 9 or 10 options in front of us. We're going to whittle that down to some number less than 10. Not sure what the number is yet. We're meeting in a couple of weeks to go through it. So we will take 10, let's just estimate and say, totally a guess, please don't hold me to it. We'll take that number down to 7. There's a couple that, if you were to ask me today, I'd be able to kick like 3 out. I'm sure Bob probably has 3 that he'd like to kick out, if not more. But we're just trying to bring some focus to the design team so that they can build out those a bit more, because at the middle point of the blue arrow now, going from left to right, we're like in that dark blue arrow, what we're going to do is pick a preferred option. So that preferred option is, we like this design best. And we submit that to the MSBA, we go back and forth a little bit, and they say, okay, we agree with you, we like this design best too. Now go forth and design, and go on to the schematic design phase. So that's the third phase over to the right, which takes the most amount of time in this whole 18-month process. That's where they're coming up with 30% of the design documents come out of the end of this process. So they're getting much tighter cost estimates. Cost estimates are actually going to be part of this phase and the next phase. Right now, it's taking this dart and throwing it at the wall to see, am I hitting the like really high range or the middle range? And there is no low range. I wish I could say that there was. So they're going to give us ranges of prices, but it's too early in the process to figure out even just the ballpark that we're going to be in. So it's more to give each option a range where, so let's say something is 200% more costly than something else. We might look at it and say, if it's 200% more, we don't even want to spend time on it. Why would we even bother? So sort of like an order of magnitude type of exercise that we're going through right now. So those are the 3 big milestones that, if you go to the next slide, Bob, there's more detail here. I sort of like spoke ahead, if you will, but that is kind of the documented what happens in each of those. So the red arrow, if you remember, was the first one to the left. That's also to the left here. PDP. So put on your acronym sneakers and just get ready to sprint, because this process is all acronyms all the time. So we are in right now preliminary design program phase within the feasibility study. So again, the ED program is what we're going to sign off on in a couple of weeks. And then what I neglected to say earlier is the next community forum, I'll talk about it a little bit further on the presentation, but the next community forum is scheduled for April, I have the date, 24th. I have it down further on the presentation, so I'll grab it in a second. But that community forum is going to be soliciting feedback on design options. So for anybody that remembers Clyde Brown, we did this as part of the Clyde Brown project. The designers put designs on boards and they stick them up all over the room, and they give everybody an opportunity to, they'll give you some direction and guidance, but they give you opportunity to provide feedback. So you're basically like sticking stickums up all over the place saying like, I like this one, here's why, and whatnot. So there's a presentation to talk about kind of the mindset behind the designs, and then it's an opportunity for the community to give their feedback on the different designs that are in the mix. So that is taken back by the design firm and also by the school building committee, and is absolutely considered as part of the discussions prior to determining what the preferred design option is. So for anybody watching or listening, we will be sending out multiple notices about that April community forum, but a really important one if you'd like to sort of have a say in the process of the design options and what you like and what you don't. You can go to the next slide, Bob. Okay, money. That's all right. So, yeah, it's a little ironic that we're having both of these discussions on the same night, but we're going to have to spend money one way or another based on the needs of the building. And it's, do we want to have money and some money from the state, or do we want to just fund by ourselves? So reimbursement. So the reason that we go through this process with the state is because they participate in the funding of the project. There are a few slides here on the reimbursement process, more so to talk about, burying the lead, the percentage that we're eligible for is at the back, but it's really important to understand how we get to that, and that number, even though it's 53.3%, will never be 53.3%, and these are all the reasons why. So the state caps certain portions of expenditure that they will help fund. They also deem certain things as completely ineligible. So the next slide has, you don't have to go yet, Bob, sorry. Sorry.
Just ready to go.
Sorry. The next slide has, absolutely will never be funded listing of items, just so we can all get a sense of what that is. But it really goes into the 3 buckets that are up here. So things just flat out they'll never pay for. One just happens to be a turf field. It's the one I tend to remember all the time. And I'll show you the list in a second for everything else. But anything that's not part of the building itself or the grounds that the building sits on, they won't participate in that. Anything that goes outside of what their recommendations are. We had a perfect example at Clyde Brown. We so badly wanted to put in like 4 bleachers in that gym over there. As soon as we put 4 bleachers in, it got too big and they wouldn't pay for it. So what do? We took the 4 bleachers out, and now we have the 1 row of chairs, because then they would participate in the cost of the auditorium. So they have really strict requirements for the size of things. So just to give you a sense of like what that's like, right? That was the perfect example of, you make it bigger by 2 feet or 4 feet, whatever that it was, and then you're out of funding. So you adjust, and the design firm and the project management firm that are on the project are the same ones that we worked with at Clyde Brown. They're fabulous. They know the town. They know a lot of the staff. And they know the site really, really well. So I think we have a huge advantage there. But those are the types of things that are going to impact that reimbursement number. So now you can go to the next slide, Bob. Sorry, and thank you. So these are things that they definitely will never fund. It doesn't matter what happens. Money will never come to us because of any of these things. So if anybody remembers, we're really hoping we don't have either one of the top 2 in this project. I'm going to knock on some wood right now. It's like a bad trip down memory lane sometimes. But so these are not, this list up here, I'm not going to read through them, but those are things that they will never pay for. One of the things, and you'll see it when I talk about the design options, one of the things that can have a really large impact to costs is swing space. So when you're doing an addition and renovation, when you're working on the building while people are in it, you have to put those people someplace. That's the swing space. That's what they call swing space. What is swing space for us? It's either we're going to add on to the building first and swing some people into that space while we work on other parts of the building. You'll see that in a bunch of the different design options. The other thing that you'll see in other design options is modular classrooms, right? And old extended day, we know a lot about modular classrooms. Modular classrooms is, in most cases, because I don't want the project management firm to get mad at me, in most cases, throwaway money. You have no asset at the end of it. You've only used it for a period of time. You have nothing at the end other than space that you were able to have. The MSBA does not participate 1 penny in swing space. So that's things that they will never participate in. You can jump to the next one, Bob.
Quick question.
Yeah, of course.
When you say auditorium, well, do you mean a new auditorium, or we won't pay for the roof in the existing auditorium we have?
So good news, auditorium stays. It's not getting, like, nothing's, you'll see it in the, well, maybe-ish see it, but I'll be able to talk to you about it. So auditorium stays, we don't need to build a new auditorium. Roof, they'll pay for.
Okay.
So it's only if we wanted a brand new auditorium,
Okay.
would they not participate.
I didn't know if it was like, well, the roof space over the auditorium, we're not gonna.
Sure.
You know.
Yeah, yep.
Okay.
Totally. So the last slide was never, ever, ever, ever am I gonna participate in that. This slide is where do I cap you? So while they will participate, they'll participate up to a point. So I'll make sure that this gets in the folder so everybody can have this and take a closer look at it. I'm not going to go through all the red, but just so that you have, again, a sense of where we sort of max out on MSBA funding. And you can see, so some of the things that are important for me to call out are the second bullet down. They just increased the square footage dollar amount to 550. It was like 383. I'm going to screw it up. I think it's around there. It was 383. They just bumped it in October to 550. So what the design and project management firms have said is they're seeing things around 700, 750 a square foot. So still not where they need to be, but not as big of a gap.
Yeah, yeah.
So they did the same thing on the next bullet too. So they updated, actually I think it's the same exact thing. Yeah, cost exceeding 550. So I'm couching it completely before the 53.3% because everyone's going to grab on to the 53.3% and think we're getting paid back more than half of whatever the total cost is going to be, and it's not going to end. It's not going to end up like that. Diane Germain was wonderful and looked at the Clyde Brown numbers. Our reimbursement rate for Clyde Brown was 52% total eligible. So today we're 53.3. Back then at Clyde Brown we were 52, and we came at a 42% reimbursement rate after all of the caps and the exclusions. Go ahead, Bob. Okay, so there's your number. So there's the number, and you'll see like lots of X's on there, and that is by design. So the 53.3 is what we are eligible for, and then it's eligibility, and then you take out all the things that we just took 2 slides talking about, but then there's a little bit of upside as well. So baseline is 53.3, but then there's things that you can do as part of the project to give you points, additional points of reimbursement. So we were successful at Clyde Brown. We were able to do it there with the green building at Clyde Brown. So I think we got a point for that. We got some points, additional reimbursement points for maintenance. I think we got 1.5 points for maintenance. So based on how you maintain your existing building and just by the sheer age of the building and the condition of it right now, I would imagine we'll get points on this positive points on this building as well. So there's ways that the project management team, the design firm, and the building committee will work together to maximize it. So the goal of the entire project is to build a fiscally responsible, educationally appropriate building that supports 20th century learning. So 21st, thank you. We don't want to go back. No. We want to go forward. Thank you, Robin. Wait a minute. So the potential reimbursement rate prior to the exclusions, again, on purpose, left blank. We're just too early to know. We won't know this until June. I think we said June or July. We won't be able to nail more of this down, and then we'll have more cost estimates. And then we really don't have the final number until the town actually votes to approve the project and we enter into the project funding agreement. So that's the official document that gives us that. But we'll have, I should probably pull that back, but we'll have numbers that are accurate ahead of the town meeting vote, which by the way will be May of 2025, when we're actually voting on money.
And whether or not to go ahead with the project.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, that'll be the total amount of the project, and the town will have the option to approve or not. And lots of lead-up forums and meetings with different contingencies in town and different boards. And if you're interested in getting involved in the support activities, please let us know. There's an email address at the end of this that we'll share up.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, of course.
John Lohr, Finance Chair. So we've had a question come through already through FinCom. Could you elaborate on, and do you know, I know it's early on in the process here, does the reimbursement get applied to any of the options like new building, remodel, partial construction, not do anything type of a thing? So
Yep.
could you walk
Sure.
about that?
Great question,
Yep.
and good news. The rate applies to whatever options we choose.
Okay.
So we get the same rate regardless of option.
Well, but if we do nothing, and we don't participate at all,
Yes.
So we
then
get,
they don't get,
We get 0.
Correct.
So as long as you, so.
well,
if
and
the-
we don't get a new school.
If the town chooses to go forward with one of it, with whatever option we go to them with,
Yeah.
and so if we went with a new school, they would participate at 53.3 with all the caveats.
Understood.
Add addition renovation, 53.3 with all
Yeah,
the caveats.
Whatever they are.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
gotcha. And not to get any granular, but new building, I get renovation, remodel, are we talking shades of differences here? Or are they all variances?
So there
to a
is
degree?
renovation by itself,
Yeah,
and then there's addition renovation.
okay.
So there's step 1 is just a code change,
Yeah.
just a code upgrade.
Yeah,
Step 2 is
code change plus.
code change plus some renovation.
Yeah,
Option 3
yeah,
is we're adding on to the building
Yeah.
and we're renovating the existing building.
yeah.
Option 4 is new building.
So all those options
Same reimbursement
50/50.
amount.
plus different options
Yes.
apply. Thank you.
Yes, yep. And you'll see options, you'll see like visuals of those in a minute. Okay, so I led with this, but I'll quickly just say it again. So the MSBA requires, as part of this first submission, that we submit to them at least, so a minimum of 1 code upgrade option, 1 addition renovation option, and 1 new building option. That's a minimum. We will be submitting more than 3, but less than 10, somewhere around there. And then, okay, so I said all of those things already. All right, you can go to the next one, Bob, which I think might be, yeah. All right, you can go, actually, you want to stop? Yeah, this is fine. You can leave that one up on the screen if you want. Can you click over to slides 1 through 5? Sorry, now we get into the,
Pictures.
yeah. And these, I'll, the last school building committee, which was on, it was last Wednesday, which the date was
The 6th of March?
You are correct. Was the 6th, and the video is posted up on the Town of Millis website. Has the design firm walkthrough, which is the proper one, of all of these. It has the principal designer taking us through all of the options and giving his feedback on each. So I would highly recommend taking a look at that. Because it's Charlie Hay. He does a wonderful job explaining his designs. I am going to hopefully have learned from him to take you through some of this. So I don't know what that was. So this first one is, if you just focus on the color, this is anything in red is out of compliance with the MSBA sizing requirements. So this is the middle high school.
and so is the left downstairs and the right upstairs?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So anything in red is out of compliance size-wise. So anything in red has to be adjusted as part of the MSBA process, unless we get special exception approval from them to leave something undersized. But just to get sort of like overall idea of where we sit size-wise. So that's this one. We actually have more classrooms in the building than the MSBA says. It's just that we have classrooms that used to be
They're
a
all too
closet,
small.
right? So if you're in a classroom that used to be a closet, you're going to be undersized. So the district's done a great job at utilizing every inch of the building, and this is sort of how it manifests itself. You can go to the next one, Bob. So then we get into the different options that they're providing. And some of these, I'll just be honest, I'm going to blow through because you'll understand why when I tell you. Okay, so the first one is this one here. This is just code upgrade. So we're getting no educational benefit from this. We're getting the building up to code. So we're renovating it so that we get it up to code with nothing from an educational perspective. And we still are not doing anything to comply with the MSBA space template. So all we're doing is getting code compliance, we're getting new systems, and that's it. So nothing that helps the education plan, which is the whole point of the MSBA.
Like not bigger classrooms?
No, we don't touch classroom size, you don't touch anything. So you're just touching systems,
Okay.
fire and safety, and then whatever codes you trip. So by their telling, code upgrades are really expensive because as soon as you start to do some sort of work, you trip some sort of code, and then that takes you down a path that's going to cost you money. So again, this is going to be submitted only because it's required to be submitted
So
by the
this would
MSBA.
be the equivalent of us not going through this process and taking the list of things that we know are already on the capital plan that have to get done. HVAC, roof,
Boilers, roofs,
all that
yeah.
stuff that we've had listed as, these are all the things that have to get fixed. It's $15, $20 million worth, whatever that is. This is basically doing all that.
Yeah, and I would argue it probably does more because in what we have on the capital plan, we're not accounting for
Right, stuff we
things
don't-
that we're tripping, right,
Right.
along
Right.
the way.
Right.
So, and I don't think, like, we don't have ADA compliance in there, right? So
Right.
we're going to definitely trip ADA code. So there are going to be some things that are going to add some expense to this that we haven't even accounted for so far in the capital plan.
And my understanding is the MSBA would not even support it because it doesn't meet the space.
Yes, yes.
So you wouldn't get the 53.3
Yeah,
reimbursed. That's my understanding.
yeah. I don't, that sounds right, but I'm not, I don't know. Because I know that they require us to submit this one.
Right.
So, yes, so this will be in the final packet, but that's the reason why, because it's a requirement. And then what TAPE has done is for every option that they gave us, they gave a phasing schedule. So like how would you phase out the project? If you keep going down a little bit, Bob, to the slide that has like a lot of orange,
Oh,
like
okay.
orange, yellow, blue.
Yep.
So this becomes a lot more, I'll say, impactful and important on future slides where we have things that are like addition and renovation and where you're like having to move kids around. But they're just sort of giving a sense of, okay, what would we do in phase one? So they're saying they would, like the wing that's back here to the back left, right? They would do that first, then they would do the corner, middle school, up, down, and then they would do the general, and that it would take them 26 months.
And that would be with the swing space. The
That's
brown-
right, thanks, Bob.
the brown
Yep.
space there, which is not reimbursable, and it would just be like affordable.
Yep, so while they're doing the first blue space, they put those blue kids into the swing space in the brown, and then they move the kids, they like, basically it's like a puzzle, right? You're like moving them out, doing the work, moving them back. Moving them the next one out, doing the work, moving them back. So that is the required code option. You can go to the next one, Bob. I'm gonna try to not keep us here all night. So so they have multiple addition renovation options. So this one adds, oh, right. So this one, so if you look to in the left diagram up there, where the courtyard is, so yep, right there. So that adds science and, science lab rooms. It adds like a central multi-purpose academic center, a new STEAM wing, which is, if you think of the parking lot back down by where like the sand volleyball pit is, like the back parking lot there, That's where that is. They're proposing putting a new STEAM wing there. And then above that, so on the bottom it has some classrooms, and then on top of it, I think he's got more STEAM stuff. So this is where, like, I'm going to keep it super high level. No, so that's what it proposes. It basically adds space, gives STEAM a lot more, like gives STEAM options, not a lot more because we have none today. So it adds in STEAM and some centrally located academic space.
Is it upgrading the classroom space?
It does, yes. Yes, great question. All the addition renovation ones are updating the classroom spaces and sizes.
And the gym, that was one of the things too.
So this one has
Still, this
the
one doesn't
same gym and the
touch
same
gym and
calf. So the gym and the calf don't get touched. And they get renovated, but they're too small. They're based on the MSBA requirements. They're still not up to MSBA size. Yep. You can go to the next one, Bob. So the next, this is
So
sorry,
this
this
is
is the
the
phasing.
phasing.
Sorry. So you're going to see the whole, like the color thing. So blue is always phase 1. So I mentioned this earlier. In all of the addition renovation options, blue comes first because blue is the new build part. So in all of these, they would build new onto the school so that then they can take from other wings or other phases and put people in those new spaces.
For the first one.
Except for that first one where it was just that. Yep. So anything that has addition, the addition goes first, and then you start moving students and staff into the additions so that you can work on their section of the building. So that kind of phases that out. This one does not have swing space because we're using the new locations to house students during the building phases.
So I don't know if this is a question for right now, but we're using parking spaces. Are they putting parking somewhere else? Is that going to be a problem?
So they take parking into consideration. With each of these, they have ideas on where to put parking if we're losing parking.
Okay. Just curious.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. Okay, I think we're at the final slide of this attachment, Bob. Sorry, 2 to 10. The thing was too big, so they had to chop it up for any of us to be able to see it.
Okay.
2 to 10. All right, addition renovation option number 2 is adding a, what is he doing here? Adding a STEAM suite right in the middle. So a 2-floor STEAM suite, and then he's got a dedicated middle school floor, and then, yeah, that's really the biggest add is the centralized STEAM classrooms into the middle of the building. We still, with this one, have cafeteria and gym that are too small, and this one requires swing space because all they're doing, so it's a little lighter of an addition. So it's the reno, but with a lighter addition. So this one requires, you can go to the next slide, Bob, if you don't mind. So that brown box that's going to be in the same spot every time there's swing space, this one requires swing space because the addition section is so minimal. All right, the next one. Okay, the next one is AR3. They all have an addition renovation option number 3, where they're adding on a whole middle school. You can see it to the bottom right there, that sort of, I don't know, triangular trapezoid. It's not a trapezoid, it doesn't have enough size, but that light blue section down to the bottom right. Is it though? 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know. It looks like one of those things that, like when you're doing a movie cut. So that's the proposal, is to have a middle school wing added onto the building as the renovation. It gives a dedicated entrance for both schools. It would demolish the wing to the bottom left there in the gray. So it's where Bob's moving his cursor over there. So that entrance from like around back, if you drive all around the school. So it demolishes that and it adds that whole middle school wing there.
Like 2 levels?
Where does Bob's office go?
They move it. Bob still has an office.
Just a locker rooms.
Right?
Is it two floors of middle school?
It is, yep.
Okay.
It is. So, you know, there's pros and cons with each of these. This one was like, so now the middle school's like super way off by themselves and on the other side of everything. And like a little out, like that jut out, because I know what comes next, I'm saying it juts out to the right. There's the next one.
Into the field?
The next one, nope, it doesn't touch the field. Doesn't touch the field.
Just misses.
So
Nope.
the next one pulls it in a little bit. So the phasing plan for this one, no swing space because you're doing a big ad. So you do the big middle school ad, you put a bunch of folks there. Again, it's sort of like Mr. O'Malley, my Latin teacher from Needham High School.
He was my
For
homeroom
3
teacher.
years. He was?
Yes.
I love Mr. O'Malley.
He's so great.
Repetition is the key to learning. The average person needs to hear something 12 times to absorb it. That's Mr. O'Malley. So you'll hear things 12 times from me. So same phasing sort of deal here. Blue is new build goes first, and then
Wait, blues first?
blue's always phase one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
A positive.
Okay.
So the new build doesn't touch the field, yet if someone hits a foul off over the back, it's going to smash a window.
That would be something we have to
Gotta get
Yes.
a big
Yeah.
backstop.
for.
Oh, we have a long way to, yes, indeed, to your question. And we have a long way to go because they're going to have to figure all this stuff out. But yes. Yep. Okay, so that's AR3. AR4, same wait a minute, hold on. Oh, sorry, I went down. AR4 is the same concept, but you see they pulled it in and moved it over to the left and kind of keep it as less off by itself, but still a dedicated middle school wing. So it gives so this version gives us new gym, new calf,
Like to code?
two code, two size requirements from the MSBA, new dedicated wing for the middle school, new steam and purpose space. So they keep the space of the existing gym and they would renovate it and it would be multi-purpose space for, they had all sorts of ideas of things to do with it.
Right, some of
Are they
some
moving the
steam.
gym? Which one's the gym now?
So the gym.
Top
would
gym
be-
is.
Gym is up
okay,
top
right,
right.
They said
okay.
STEAM and PE, so that's the new gym. And then
Okay.
STEAM and PE, they have where the old gym is. And that's all, like, everything is up for grabs. But
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
So with our new gym, we know that bleachers are not.
Yes. No, bleachers here. So for an elementary school, you
Okay.
can't- so for
Like
an
the
elementary
old-
school, there's a certain size. For a high school, so our gym right now is drastically undersized.
Okay.
So we would have a bigger gym with bleachers.
Okay.
So
Big enough for an indoor track along the top?
sorry.
Be big enough
Oh,
for an
don't
indoor-
laugh! I said that.
I was just thinking exactly the same thing.
Don't laugh.
Maybe in the wrap
Don't laugh! I said
upper
that.
level.
Yep. Except that would get in the way of the solar that we have to put up there to pay for energy.
Whatever.
No, just like a second level of the gym.
Yeah. Okay, so that you can go. You can keep going, Bob. You can. Oh, sorry. We blew through that one. That's the end of that section. Sorry, we're going to the next one to get the phasing of that. So again, same. the same story. Blue gets built first. We move folks into that, and then we renovate the rest of the buildings. And then we're still demolishing that brown section back there, and that
What-
will become parking.
Is that why, like, what's the basis of demolishing that wing?
Then we're too big. Then we're oversized if we add all that stuff and keep that wing. And we've also eaten up most of our parking
Yeah,
by doing
So
the blue
MSBA
section.
won't reimburse us if we go too big?
Yes, correct.
Yep.
gotcha.
Correct. Yep.
Gonna be
Yep.
around 140,000 square feet.
Yes, that's
total.
exactly right. Yep. Yep. And then they have addition, renovation, the last version A, which is, it keeps the CAF, so it's a tweak on the earlier version. It keeps the current cafeteria, only does the new gymnasium, and just flip-flops it from where they had proposed it. So because we're keeping the current CAF, they would build the gym under the, like, not under, but up here under, under the CAF, and still keep the middle school wing where they had proposed it before. So it's less new build, but still gets us the space we need for a new gym, and they have some ideas on how to utilize the CAF and reno the CAF.
Reno the CAF, but not to code in size.
Reno the CAF to try to meet the needs of what the school wants to do, which is put all middle school at a lunch sitting at one time.
Not at 10.
So, correct, not starting at 10:25. Don't you know that's going to be on the slides of why to support the school? It's just like Clyde Brown.
Yeah.
Yes, so they have some ideas around that, but that is a good
But, like,
point.
not
'cause that
changing
comes
the
back to the
size.
ed plan.
Yeah.
Of like the school wants to have a middle school lunch seating, so that's in the educational plan. So the design team says, what do we need to do to be able to meet the need of the educational plan with the building? And that would be make it fit in the CAF so that you could seat 6, 7, and 8 at one lunch sitting. So that's the kind of reasons why they
Right,
use
but this
that
one doesn't
ed plan.
enlarge the thing, it just enlarged the cafeteria.
It doesn't
to the
enlarge
size
the
that-
footprint of the cafeteria, but they said they have some ideas
Okay.
on how to reconfigure
Okay,
it.
okay.
So they'd still reno it,
Yep.
they just wouldn't make it bigger.
Yeah, okay. That's
Mark,
it.
do you have a
And
question?
all of these increase the size of the classrooms.
They all are bringing everything to MSBA requirements, yes. Except for anything that we call out, like the CAF.
Yep.
Oh, right.
Okay. All right, new school options. So, option 1, build a new school on the fields.
Okay.
You would, so the benefit of this is you don't have any disruption in the school and you're not phased. So that's what we did with Clyde Brown. We built the new, they built the new Clyde Brown.
Except we'd have no fields for
Right.
how many
We'd have
years?
no
So,
fields for
they,
sports.
right, I haven't gone to the cons yet. Those are the benefit, the cons. So 2 cons. You lose your fields for multiple years because not only do you lose the fields, you have to find a place, like you have to demolish the old school, then put your field down, then give it time to set and grow because the MSBA is not paying for AstroTurf. So if we want AstroTurf, we have to fund it 100%. So it gets very costly, which is the second con. It gets very costly very quickly to do a new build in this location. And then,
I mean,
yeah, go ahead.
question.
Yeah.
They're proposing it on the field, but isn't that like a swamp? How
Not where they have it. So what they have is a full.
Sorry.
No, they've done all the surveying of all the wetlands, and they have all of the requirements for, I forget the word, but basically like how far you, like encroachment rules and all of that. So how much space that they need. So any of these that they're showing take all of that into consideration.
Okay.
So they have other drawings that they showed us that have like a light blue line, which is like the wetlands. And then there's a, what's it called? A vernal pool. There's a vernal pool over here that has like
With
specific things that
Bees.
we can't we can't disrupt in certain space. So all of these meet those requirements. So when they spaced it, they took all that into consideration. It's a good question because it does look like it like is super close to certain things, but they fit it. So that's new school option number 1. Hold on, I gotta see when we get to. Oh yeah, the next one. Sorry. Sorry, okay, this is new school option number 2, which is build the new school right where the old school is, which means that you would have to find a home for everybody in the school for a 2.5-year period, right? So
Sure.
so you can see how the list goes from 10 to
So
less
once
than
you do
10,
that, don't even bother building the school.
right?
Wait, they couldn't
So-
do it in phases
goes-
and like knock down a section and then have the kids go.
No.
Yeah, good lord.
No.
What
This
about
one
the
requires
property we have?
everybody off-site for the entirety of the project. We don't, so
That's not a good idea.
Good, better, ugly, right? We don't have a lot of options as it relates to space. So one of the things that they've done is we've had discussion about parcels of land in town. We went through the same process with Clyde Brown, and there's like the field over here that we gave to the town. So would we want to potentially ask for it back? And everybody unanimously said no, we don't want to touch that. Like that stays how it is. There's Village Street there's land that the town bought at a town meeting a few years ago that's on Village Street. But one of the reasons why Clyde Brown was built there is this whole purpose of campus and campus and location. We share tons of resources because we don't have a lot of them. So to put a building down on Village Street kind of goes against the ability to be able to share resources so closely and have kids and community and all of those things. So they did look at different options and came to the conclusion that this is the only viable one, is to build it somewhere in this campus. So that's why that's all you're seeing up here is things that are in this location. So really costly, really disruptive, really costly. And we don't really have a building that could fit everybody, somewhere for cheap. And then the last one has been lovingly named Battlestar Galactica, which is you sort of fit it in between the fields and the current school.
Like a new build in that spot.
Correct. It's a new build in that spot. So,
Looks small.
It's 3 floors.
it's
Oh,
three
three
floors.
floors. Got it,
Right.
got it, got it.
That's why it's that. Right. It's 3 floors.
Got it.
So we're space constrained
Yeah.
with where we can build a
Sure.
brand new building.
Sure.
Go ahead.
No,
Shane,
no,
yeah.
it doesn't matter.
No, ask the question.
I was thinking what we could do with the space, because they would take that down, right? The old.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
But again, they're not touching the field, so yeah.
Yeah, what would that all be?
Them there.
Parking? What would they do with the demolished school area space?
TBD.
Oh,
We'd have to figure it out.
okay.
I'm sure.
I mean,
part of it would be-
theoretically,
part
yeah,
of it
you
would be
could,
parking, and I mean, we could. I mean, absolutely.
because you're
it could
actually
be-
not losing a lot of parking in that scenario.
Right.
Right.
Because it's like.
So
in
you
the
could-
space.
Field in.
You could legitimately
Put a
contemplate,
Put a check in.
I don't know how big
Field
a,
house?
whether a field would fit there. But you probably start in
You'd
the
probably
top
get a
corner.
track
Like if
there
you
for
like if you
sure
start,
with a-
well, if you could fit a track, then you got a football field in the
Yeah.
middle of it. So you could put, like, have the field
Field
go,
house and
have it go up top there, like straight. Yeah, like right there.
So because
Have it
they're
go the long way.
demolishing the school, if this option was, would they participate in the payment of a
It's right there.
field in
That's
that
the left-hand
spot there?
side. Be right there.
No,
We'd be
because we're
sitting
not
on the.
touching these fields here.
If
We'd
they,
be sitting
if we
on the
demolish
field
the old
right now.
school and build
Right.
new,
Right.
would the MSBA pay for if we decide to put a field in that space, would they pay for that?
I don't think so because we haven't
No,
fully
we'd have to-
displaced the other field.
There's-
If we built on top of,
I
so
see,
If
I
we built
see.
on top of the field,
Yeah.
then they would participate. But the thing with their participation is, way back in that slide that I was like, I'm not going to really go through this because it has the red in it and all like the caps. The site work cap gets blown even before you
Yeah.
would start to do a field.
Sure.
So because
Because you got to get rid of all that
Exactly.
construction. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, I got it.
Yep. Yeah, but totally. So they have a lot of different options. That's the last one. So that's what's sort of like in the very, very, very preliminary phases. But just so you sort of get an idea of like where their heads are at and options that we'll ask them to take some more time and take a look at. And so when they come, I'll get more information ahead of next meeting. But I don't know if if they were planning on doing this. But I at least wanted to make sure everybody had could get a peek at what this is. And
In all of the drawings, is a weight room a part of the gym? Is it-
there's locker rooms, and then they do have like alternative PE space.
Oh, so
which
it would be in
include
that space?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, because I saw the
Yeah.
locker rooms, but I wasn't sure about it.
Yeah. They had
The
that,
weight
and
room
like
is another example of something in a closet.
Right.
right now.
Right. So, do you mind just going to the very last slide, just so we can have it on the video, so people know? Sorry, of the presentation. Sorry, Bob. And thanks for doing this. There you go. Whoop, sorry, second to last. I lied. Okay, so here's what's coming up. So on the 27th, there's a school building committee meeting. The agenda, it's a Zoom meeting, so the agendas and the links are posted on the Town of Millis website under School Building Committee. On April 24th is the second feasibility study forum that I mentioned earlier. That's going to be community feedback on different design options. There's a website for the project that's linked there. There's an email that if you have any questions, concerns, whatever, you can always email that email address and someone will get back to you. And then the school building committee meetings happen every 2 weeks, and they're all via Zoom so far. So we welcome anybody's attendance at those. They are all recorded and posted on the town's website as well. I have to still link the school page up here, so I'll get the school page for future ones, but that's sort of what's up and coming.
Do you know what time that April 24th feasibility
7
forum?
p.m. I think,
Okay.
but we'll make sure that we do a town-wide listserv distribution, a district-wide listserv distribution, because we'd really like to get participation from all different constituencies across the town.
Sure.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Yeah, yes.
Thank you.
All right. So I think what we have left is our action items. So we'll just see if we can just get through these. So consideration to approve the minutes from February 6th.
Mr. Chair,
Yep.
I make a motion to approve the February 6th meeting minutes.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
I'm just going to jump around quickly. Consideration to approve the school budget as presented.
Mr.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Shane.
No, you go ahead.
I make a motion to approve the FY25 school budget as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. School calendar for next year?
I have a question about that.
Go for it.
Do you want me to ask it now or during the discussion phase?
Go ahead now.
Okay, so I was just looking at that and I was wondering about the 3 half days the week leading into Thanksgiving.
Right. So November is normally when we have conferences.
Yep.
And those conferences, the way we originally scheduled them, they would have been 2 weeks before Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
So the thinking was that having those conferences the week of Thanksgiving break might also give people an opportunity to get ready for Thanksgiving. So they were going to be in November anyhow.
Mm-hmm. I know, as like a parent, that week is crazy, and so like now having 3 half days trying to figure out care for kids and plan for Thanksgiving is not super amazing. And the other thing is that will that deter parents from sending their kids to school and going away for that whole week because, oh, it's just a half day now and I can Zoom for my conference, so we'll just take a week's vacation somewhere.
Well, I would hope not.
So those are my thoughts on that.
But also, I guess traditionally, this was done like 5 or 6 years ago. That's how they did it up until 5 or 6 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. In November
Yeah,
is.
it worked okay the first time. Like I remember, and it was okay when it was done on those days. Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
it being those days for
Yeah.
a while.
And back then, I don't recall
We did Zoom.
any attendance issues.
Okay.
November's a torn up month anyhow.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, we moved the full day professional development day to that Tuesday,
The
that's
election
election day,
day.
because a lot of other towns don't have school that day
Yeah.
because
They
they have
vote
voting
in
in
the
their
school.
buildings.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And And this way, hopefully, we can do some inter-district professional development.
Okay, those are my questions.
Anybody else have any other questions? Take a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Yep.
I make a motion to approve the 24-25 school calendar as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right.
No, I vote no.
Okay.
I oppose.
Okay. Motion still carries.
I know, just like one on record.
All right, we'll go back up. Consideration to approve the 3-year purchase agreement for Sophos endpoint detection system.
There was a, Ryan Camiri, our Director of Technology, included a memo in the packet along with the invoice. The system provides us with protection against cyber threats and identifies vulnerabilities in our system to make sure our network, our data, and information about our kids and staff is protected. The cost is $2,011.67 each year for 3 years.
And it's in our budget too. We can afford to do
Yes,
this.
it is.
for the next
Yeah,
one.
it's included
Okay.
in the FY25 budget.
All right.
Mr. Chair.
Yep.
I make a motion to approve the Sophos endpoint detection system agreement for the next 3 years.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Last, consideration to approve changes to the high school program of study.
Yeah, and on this, principal of the high school, Marco Dickey, included a memo in the packet. And basically, the only substantive change to this year's program of studies is in the math department. And as I'm sure you recall, we've been aligning our math program with the state frameworks. And it's been, we're doing one level of courses per year, and we're now at the senior year. So the proposed course changes in the senior class would be the creation of a new statistics class at the honors and CP1 level. And this would create more options for seniors who could take AP Calc AB, Pre-Calc Honors, Pre-Calc CP1, or Financial Literacy. The current Introduction to Calc and Stats class would be eliminated, and this would bring us into alignment with the frameworks. The updated Pre-Calc and Honors CP1 classes would move from grade 11 to grade 12, just like last year. The Algebra 2, the new Algebra 2 class moved from sophomore to junior year. So this completes the alignment there. And then the current essential topics in math in the real world would be updated, and the name change would be changed to Financial Literacy CP2. And this title of the course would accurately reflect what's taught in the class, and it also would clarify things for college representatives and the NCAA clearinghouse, that essential topics in math in the real world. A lot of times colleges would inquire what is the curriculum in this class and so forth in the clearinghouse, same thing. So this would complete our 4-year upgrade of the math program.
So it's just like lots of name changes and maybe 1 or 2 new ones?
Yeah, the new class would be statistics.
Yeah.
The pre-calc class would have like elements in our former pre-calc class were really Algebra 1 elements. So this pre-calc class would align with what a pre-cal class in the frameworks would be.
Okay, I'm only asking because we had talked about potential cuts and loss of courses at the different levels, and so just wondering about the impact that might have on students. I guess if there aren't enough kids that sign up for it, then you don't run it, but if there isn't a teacher to teach it, then
Right, all
Somebody else will
all
take
our
it.
new courses and all our program of studies classes run based on enrollment and staffing.
yeah. Okay. So just to have it like on the books, really, in case it works out. Okay, thank you. Mr. Chair,
Yes.
may I make a motion to approve the high school program of studies changes?
Second?
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. And that's everything, so, but we did have something in the packet for new business, a request
Oh,
for
that's
a
right.
middle school track coach
Right.
for the spring.
Yeah, so the, athletic director Derek Finney is doing spring sports registrations now. And, the middle school members would support an assistant track and field coach. The coach's salary would be covered entirely by the user fees that would be generated by those extra students participating in the track.
The largest athletic program in the
Right.
school by far.
And we
you
don't
know,
have a
and we don't have a
track.
track.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay.
Not yet.
Not yet. All right. Yeah, so this will fully be funded out of the user fees, so there's no budget impact. There's no, and they absolutely need a third coach. 'Cause
Yes. That's a lot of kids.
fourth coach, because, yeah, it's a ton. And,
Especially
In middle school.
right.
Right, right.
And they run them at different meets. They run them at different meets, sometimes on the same days
It's wild.
as the high school. So,
Do you need like a motion to approve?
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Chair,
Yep.
I make a motion to add one additional coach at the middle school / freshman level to the current coaching staff of the track and field,
Spring track and field.
spring track and field.
all right.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
All
My
right.
daughter signed up for track this year. She's very excited.
This year?
Yeah, 6th grade. Like the whole all her friends are doing track.
It's a
Good time.
sport.
Yeah.
Especially when you get to go to Friday night down at Reggie Lewis in the
Yeah.
winter. It's awesome.
They just put the
spring
schedule
track.
out. I didn't see that.
Spring track. Some of those April meets are cold, but then when you get into May.
Oh, yeah, you'll go to like Holliston.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Westwood,
Yeah.
good time. Dover Sherburne. All right. Executive session. Do we have details to go through in executive session, or?
It's more general.
Okay.
Is there anything specific we have to do?
I don't think, like, not
Because I saw
tonight.
what, yeah, because I saw what was in the memo. So if we don't have granular detail to go through,
Right.
Oh.
we can do it in a couple weeks.
Oh, so
Alright.
do we not want to meet?
Yep.
Okay.
So, all right, then I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
So, moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you, Mr. Law.